It was meant to be a visual representation um, of our perspectives, the balance in perspectives, um, having, like this inner world of ideas and sensations, feelings inside of our body. It's all something that's ongoing. The outer world is ongoing too. It's infinite, it seems, in both directions, but where our awareness goes, if it turns out to be overly, like, I think like most people are in some sort of a blended place where their focus is kind of exchanging both and in such a cohesive way that like it's able to just flow, it's able to function. It's not, things get rolling, things naturally balance out, and then there's like just this nice, I think once we get into our routines, it increases our efficiency. And the repetitive ways of behavior teach our inner not to have to be so involved. Like, in a sense, like, okay, I feel like the size of these things, what that I was just having a different conversation on energy capacities. So it's similar in this because the capacity you have to direct your own attention may be, consuming a lot of your energy. The point of like getting into that balance is that it would not require as much energy. The functionality would still exist. It becomes like a perpetual motion device. It's because the forces that are happening are pretty cohesive and they actually fuel each other. This is a reciprocal relationship, yourself, the inner part, and the outer world. Like what I perceive of my environment in the outer world right now is like this huge state of chaos. So is this. It's all hand in hand. Not to say that you couldn't enter an environment that's chaotic and maintain your peace on the inner worlds, but I think something that would require is like holding your own. Maybe these things can fluctuate a lot. Maybe that actually is what's happening quite often, because I question so often, like, why so many fluctuations? Why so extreme? But I just can't seem to like gather a sense enough of balance that is sustainable, you know? It's always so incredibly chaotic, and then it just, for a while, it seems to come together, but then it falls apart again and again and again. And so these are a couple of ideas I was thinking about. What the hell? Oh, and a quick vision on some writing, which was a release yesterday. I've been struggling because I have not been creative. I've not have much energy or drive at all for anything. I'm losing motivation. I'm trying to solve this problem because I am seriously like detached. I'm not feeling very good, and there's a million reasons why, but I have no choice but to figure out how to carry on. And this is like mysterious because it feels very incredibly like this is a challenging stretch right now. Not to say that it ever hasn't been in the past when there were stretches like this, but I'm kind of like feeling really overwhelmed, and that's because I haven't solved what I need to figure out yet in this. So I'm reviewing like information that is helpful to consider in all of it. I've been really, really down on myself, so this is actually helpful because now that I notice, long story, it's just I've witnessed my daughter going through a similar thing. Suddenly she's sick. She got the eye infection that we've all been dealing with, and I'm on round 2, and it's actually getting worse instead of better, which sucks because that's not what we want. We want to just continue to be healthy and persevere and be able to carry on in life without it just getting like exponentially worse and worse. Like, what the fuck, Anyways, back to this idea. I was like just demonstrating because in school they talk about buckets and stuff. Yesterday was like a huge argument versus me asking for help. Like the house is like absolutely trashed and filthy. And I'm like, oh my God, I realize the germs in this house are perpetuating our illnesses. We can continue to keep getting this infection and it keeps seemingly getting worse and worse. If I don't get the environment under control, then I don't think that we can heal on the inner parts because we are in this environment. Like it has to be tended to. It has to have the energy put towards that. It is crucial for our health, you know? So this is why this is so important to like flip the fucking activation switch, because my something is malfunctioning in the doing department. But it's like I'm trying as hard as I fucking can, you know? This is like not easy because I really don't know what the other choices are, what the other answers could be. So that's why I jump into this like stupid, like super hyper analytical mind. But these visuals actually help me to differentiate like what feels impossible. It makes the impossible seem more understandable, and then problem solving is easier when it's on paper versus like floating around in the chaotic mind feeling impossible. Like this is a tangible effort to try to like literally solve this fucking problem because I don't want to be here in this place anymore. Oh, and sometimes I criticize myself because I'm like, why am I so analytical, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm also incredibly freaking emotional. I think it must be an attempt at finding that balance. It's intense, but whatever. Why question the self? Why question the format of the mind? Just go with what is working or what feels okay to you. And I don't know who I'm even apologizing to because it's just this automatic sense of like perceived judgment. And, you know, I realize that's me. That is myself. That is my perception. No one else is here. So where is this? Why does that have to continuously be such a consideration if I'm, oh, for God's sake. Okay. My capacity is full on, this is like my best potential. I'm full. I'm always striving for this. I think rarely are we ever at like a complete 100%, but it may happen. The fluctuations are natural, but being sick has greatly reduced my capacity. So like I was like explaining to Penelope, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of a boring container. It looks like a Scotch glass. I don't know. It looks like like a boring cylindrical. I'm like, some people's are really fancy. And I started to try to draw like, you know, a shape that would represent something else. Or I'm like, what's yours look like? And she said a jelly jar. And so I made her this one. And so, but anyways, so if you're like, if this was potentially 100% for your capacity, which can also change on the day-to-day, the shape can change and the capacity of your container. I think, I don't know if that's going to be the kind of dramatic thing that, anyways, I think most typically it's a gradual, slow transition, kind of like watching a child grow. You don't notice it on the day-to-day, but one day you'll look back and just see much of a difference, you know? Something like surgery may be the exception, because if you're having surgery, obviously, like, but I don't know. Anyways, the point is, like, having, it's like automatic withdrawal on bill pay. You know, you have things that are already consuming your energy from the get-go. I woke up this morning and I'm dealing with all of this. Like, I'm just feeling like, holy crap, if everything were to just take a little bit more of that energy away, I'm left with maybe roughly 10%. Which is sad. It's so like, but okay. Why the secondary like, I don't need it to be sad. What I need it to be is emotionless right now. This is an analysis. We're not fucking going there. Back to the CBT triangle. Feeling, thinking, doing the behavior, like, you know, and I'm explaining this to Penelope. She said, let me show you. I'm like, that's something I can see. It means you're taking action. That is also known as behavior. Taking action, doing, you know. These are different than feeling and thinking in any given situation. It's important to differentiate those things, but the important thing to think about is each of these can be energy consumers. So if we put too much energy consumption into the thinking part, we are reducing our own capacity for doing. You know, you're taking your own capacity away. So things like the anxiety, I got to keep that shit at bay. Like, because the whole thing is I need to reduce this so I have more of this so I can like fix some of these things. Really, when I'm talking about what I mainly need to fix right now, my biggest goal is to get this house completely clean and sanitized, because this sickness is getting worse. It's perpetuating like an increased germ. Like God, it is such a conundrum because I am so incredibly exhausted and worn out. I can't even explain how I feel. Like I just am so drained. Everything feels hard. Now my body hurts. I hurt my back yesterday. Fucking on top of everything. I'm like, wow, why? Why? Oh, because I just went through the first round of pink eye like 2 weeks ago, got antibiotics, me and my son. We've been missing appointments, and it was the last week of school and all these things. Get these eye drops, get these oral antibiotics, go through those. Everything seemed to be okay. Not even like a day or two later, I have pink eye again in the other eye, and I had like, you know, like 1 or 2 days that were good, and then it's right back to this. And I'm like, okay, so I go back in to the doctor and I have like a stronger antibiotic now, and I'm on like day 3 or 4 of that, and my pink eye is getting worse, and now my daughter has it. And so the house is like a disaster, mountains of shit everywhere. Like I'm just so overwhelmed by it all. I'm trying my best to get it done. I'm asking my kids for help. We're getting over here, like every day that things just keep draining and draining. The problem with not having the capacity is that I feel like I'm almost taking out a loan, like I'm borrowing against myself or something. We're dipping into a very unsustainable place. To be able to manage, it has to remain in a certain level. Like this is scary places because I don't know what happens when it goes beyond that point. Inevitably natural consequences, but that's kind of frightening. I can't even. I recently had to do a social story with a new psychologist, and I had to review our history. Like part of the problem is I've been dealing with a lot of like trauma related ailments. I don't know how else to describe this, but imagine you're having a flare up of your old fucking football days, injuries, shoulder injury, whatever. Something's happening and you're just dealing with it again. Like it is weakening you, it's taking your energy, it's taking your strength. You're already weakened. The longer this happens, it's like the doing can't happen. And this is how functioning becomes an issue. But when children are relying on you, you have 2 kids relying on you, this shit doesn't stop. You literally cannot change any of this right now. That it exists, right? Things about the anxiety. I feel like that is, out of all of this, more of a manageable thing. I need to, I think that might be because I've improved at my ability to manage it. Breathing and trying to slow it down and trying to maintain accurate levels of like connection with the self and connect. That goes back to this. If I'm feeling too disconnected, this doesn't even make sense, honestly. Maybe it does. What feels like sometimes is like my own inner is disconnected from me. Like, if this is our perception and our awareness of the inner, of the outer, if you don't have an awareness of your own, what does that mean? I think that was more like the attempt at this separated one. Or possibly more like this, where the inner world is actually way bigger than the outer. And the outer is there, but it's like so disguised by the inner too, that it's just minimally the focus, honestly. You're more consumed in your own inner world. And this may be when I'm talking about getting a little bit out there, but I also had this thought that like, what if there was like a tiny world, like a moon or something like that? Like maybe the outer world was just a moon, a satellite, you know, people's perceptions and what they're aware of and how they understand anything. I feel like the clarity would be here, or even holding space for, because I believe that there's so much more in the outer than I could perceive. So I allow, like, I need there to be excess that is not within my awareness. This wouldn't even be a full circle. I mean, it'd be like just like a vague introduction to it, you know? And that's honestly a beautiful thing. If the outer world is consuming you so much and your inner world is like just falling within it, that might be a good worker, a good person who is actually okay just serving and like outwardly giving a lot. I don't know, because back to the capacity thing, it's like if you cannot escape your own inner world, and it's not like this decision it's not like people want it, and that's hard because a lot of people assume that that it's a choice, or it's just like, oh, you made your bed, now sleep in it. Like, how the fuck did I make this bed, and how do I just get rid of the bed altogether, because it is so hard. And I'm so done with all of it. I just wish I could figure it out, you know, because I am so like beyond, I'm getting, not okay, you know, I need to be okay. But I know how this goes. Okay, so yes, there's a lot of fear surrounding all this shit. And this is the point, exactly the point of why I'm doing this video. Okay, so I've heard time and time and time again all of these examples, like if this were that regular, I don't know how many days, that shit always changes. This is not a consistent thing. There's no pattern. Well, maybe I'm just not aware of the pattern. Some people say there are patterns. What I can tell you is this, and I need to find out my own patterns. I need to. I say there aren't, but people recognize it. Shit like this affects it. If this is getting to be big and there's a lot of stress involved in life, I can tell you, if I'm already getting down here, it seriously speeds up this whole thing. And maybe that's why life is so freaking chaotic, because I never actually got my stress under control. And maybe that should be more of my focus, because if I can't reduce that list and get that cohesion, I think I'm headed straight for my death. Like, I'm not even kidding. The kind of health situation I'm in, and I just keep getting sick and getting sick and getting sick and weaker, which leads to greater injuries, which leads to less functioning, which leads to more problems piling up, which leads to more of this fucking anxiety, which leads to more of the proof of dysfunction and all this crap, which feeds the depression, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to live in this place anymore. Days and days and days and days and days. No. I don't feel like I'm alive. I don't feel like I'm really living my life. I feel horrible. I feel so sad for my children because I want to let them live their lives. But for some reason, and especially because we're all together in this home and in this environment, and I feel just like overwhelmed. I don't know. So I'm trying to I'm sending out the beacon, okay, because this is what I really need, is to figure this out. And I can't let myself keep falling apart. And I wish it was just so easy to just stop, you know? Like, my mom, she just doesn't quite understand the complexity of this shit. She just thinks it's like, it's almost like you want this or something. I don't know how she said it. I don't know. I like to stay in these places, and I'm so sad, and I feel like I'm closer to death again, and it's just like, I don't know how. I don't know. Anyways, I'm figuring it out. This is a problem-solving thing. So days and days and days and days, usually something really big will happen then, and it will kind of wobble away. So there's different like levels. Sometimes these can be like really intense and up and down and da 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 da. And this is like getting off into like ultimately like euphoria and flow and bliss and happiness, productivity, helpful to other people, like creative. There's like so much that comes of this energy excess. When the energy is high, when you're like up, lifted, how it feels physically in these upper places, effortless. Feels like I'm floating. Feels like life takes no energy from me. It only keeps giving me energy. Everywhere I look, I see beauty. I walk out into, I just step outside, step anywhere, step inside, look at anything. And it's like there's a filter that just highlights and exacerbates the fact that there's so much to this life. It is incredibly profound. The higher it gets, the more out there. And then, you know, there is this anchor point that I have somewhere. It's my connection. It's the connection point. And I think, like, I don't know, if I was like, let's see, I'll quickly draw like a, let's say this sadistic person is me. I don't know. It doesn't have to be like anything crazy. It just is an example of I don't know. Anyway. Okay. Okay. The anchor, I don't know. The anchor typically, what's interesting is like, if this is the ground level, this is like a separate, this is just, we're going to save that for later. Right now, if I was here, and this is me on the ground, and I got like the sun distant off into the great beyond, you know, and the awareness of like, you know, if this is my perspective and there's like this tree, there, the awareness would be of the roots of the tree too. So like as above, so below, common saying that is reminding of these kind of happenings. Even the inner and outer worlds, it's kind of that same. I even have an awareness of the moon, you know, even in the daytime, remembering the moon, you know, because I'll see it later and I just can't see it now. And I wonder how the moon's doing when the sun is out and stuff like that, which is just a cheeky little way to like expand beyond whatever awareness I'm stuck in, especially if it's like getting, I think it's the natural way just to like pull away from the self and recognize other things in the outside world is a beautiful exchange. It honors the world and it also feeds your brain. It feeds your soul with like something new. And then you can continue, that energy is like in, out, it goes in, it goes out. It just keeps on flowing. That's flow. It's beautiful. It's everywhere all the time. But okay, where are you? So like back to the anchor, like, okay, if I'm getting way too out there, not a good situation. Where's my anchor? I don't know. It's there. And then I'm like flying. I'm not like standing here on earth. I'm like way, 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 way off in outer space, in the distant spaces. My body's here, but there's like this loose kite thread connection. And where my awareness is, I'm way the fuck, way too far away. Other people are going to be like, whoa, because this is, most people hover around in the like relevant area. In their, what they say makes sense because they're all they can agree upon and understand like what this is here and now in the world or whatever. If you're out there and I'm like way in the hot, high places, I'm starting to get really dangerous. I have to reel it in because I don't want to get lost. I think I would absolutely just fucking lose my mind. I would stop making any kind of sense. And there are times where I can realize it's getting out there, where it stops to make so much sense. So that's why other people are good in life, because they can help us to remember what's making sense, like what's real in real life. what is real, quote unquote real. Yes, there's this subjectivity. Yes, there's this personal experience. Yes, there's this inner world, but there's an outer world that exists, and it is real. So we're trying to cooperate together because that person exists too. If I just freak out and punch him in the face, I mean, that is like such a horrible thing to do to a person. They would not, it's not fair. You can't deny the outer world. There are consequences to those things. I don't want to freak out. I want to do good things for this outer world as much as I can because I am a person here today. And it just feels as if this is my obligation and duty. I really wish I could do something good for this world. You know, even despite how much I've suffered, even despite everything, it doesn't matter. Because if I know that they are there, it's like, why wouldn't we try to do something good? If we had this capacity of the world, you know, and we're all just like somewhere here, we're stacked, we're compiled, we are collaborating to create the capacity. Yes, there are huge energy consumers, and yes, there are a lot of this like ongoing, you know, cyclical, like, those kind of things like the PMS, it's a cycle too. We have to learn to work within the bounds that are real. If I wish forever that it's just something else, it doesn't do me much good here. That anchor sometimes can be below. Sometimes it's actually like more ahead. It's almost like a leash. It pulls me forward and down. Where I feel real heavy, like I'll have more grounded legs and feet, and I'll be strong at the base, kind of like this tree, you know, because the tree can extend high up there, but it can do that because it extends below just as far. Without this below, that thing would not survive that way. And if I'm out here on this kite and this anchor is just like this tiny thread, maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe it's like the plants that were grown indoors versus the plants that face the natural elements. Because the plants that were grown indoors, you have this little lamp and it's giving light out to your little like sprout, you know, and you just planted this seed and you're so very proud. And of course we want to like witness the glory of, you know, what nature can do. And it's almost as if we try to like keep our plants as like pets or family members. They become something for us, you know. You have, you know, it's a miracle. I feel this so heavily. I feel like I care for them, and that's a reciprocal relationship too, where they feed my energy. So maybe like I need to be thinking about more about stuff like this, because I understand how that reciprocal relationship works, where I gather like a sense of appreciation for all of the life that I am able to contribute to. And it feels so good to see them thriving, because I feel like that's a reflection on me. I feel like that is a reflection on my capacity for love. But the problem with these indoor conditions is that they start to just really stretch. They're stretching up into this light. They're getting this long, lanky, like stem. But it's not the plant that's outside. Let's just zoom through the window out to this other plant that's like happens to be in the ground over here. Now, this plant might, whatever, it is facing elements. It is facing the wind. It is facing the storms. It might be imperfect. It might be kind of curving. You know, it may have defects, but it is strong. It has built up a resistance to its own environment because it has to survive. This environment is so clean and perfect and without all the troubles, right? But if this plant were to just be plopped outside, it would not be acclimated to these elements. It would not have long, beautiful roots to hold it up. It would only have this tiny planter pot. That planter pot is sad. It makes me kind of sad. I've been like slowly leveling up all my plants because I feel like they deserve so much more. And it's so sad. They will only ever be able to grow as much as they can in this tiny space if they are confined that way. These guys aren't. They can just, you know, it shows so much even with the sunflowers. the ones that have the bigger pots, and this is interesting. I can actually maybe show something on this after, but anyways, I'm getting so off topic. Holy cow. This anchor, first of all, to have a connection, you need 2 points and you need something between. This connection is that, what is it? Is it like love? Is it awareness? Is it something? You must have the self, the one that you are. This is you. And whatever it is that you're connecting with is on the other side. It's like you give your energy. These have to have, like when it's with people, sometimes people can like sever a connection. And they purposefully, you can like give your energy to try. And to them, it's like, boop, no. They don't, or maybe it goes actually this way. They refuse to accept it. Or maybe they can't see it. Or maybe they don't understand it. There's a lot of reasons why. If I said hello to someone who did not speak English, they probably wouldn't respond. It doesn't mean that they don't want to say hi or that they, don't recognize me or see me as a human, but like they don't know how that communication goes, or they're not familiar with that phrase, or, So I can forget, like, that's where understanding the difference between the inner and outers are important, We can't, like, just assume that the outer is the inner. We have to understand these differences. It will help us in forgiveness. If this is you ricocheting all this stuff because you're so hurt, it's like, hey, let's consider what else it might be, because that really hurts to constantly be stuck in this little planter pot, and this growth is flimsy. It might have seemed big at first, but you are limited here to be outside and free, but not dangerously free. Like, the whole thing is, like, in this thing that we share in the outer, in the places where we're all connected and in this world, I think it would be best to have an orientation to others that matter to us, because these connections are helpful for us. I think when I'm starting to get way too out there, that's when I need a little bit of assistance reorienting, like slowly bringing it in. When people reject me, I'm rejection sensitive. So this is like something that, like, it's horrible. It's a cycle that feeds itself, where it's like isolation, depression, and a lot of self-criticism and judgment. It leads to isolation because I don't want to feel like a burden. I don't want to feel like I'm hurting someone else. It's like, what's this energy I'm putting out? I'm like hurting people. I feel like I'm not a good person if I'm hurting somebody, The isolation leads to like reduced social, and the thing about those capacities is it's like reciprocal as much as anything. You have to like give in order to like maintain. There's no reason it would ever continuously pour in one direction. I think people eventually, that is a natural consequence of self-isolation or antisocial behavior. Like, but antisocial is actually something else. Like, I'm not talking about isolation. Antisocial is like an absolute lack of consideration for like the others. We have consideration for the others. That's not what this is. This is you're actually feeding. You reduce social, you have lack of reorientation. You don't, and then so you get more and more involved on the inner. And what that does is it keeps you trapped in this cycle. And it's like sometimes these people, these others, they're like, wait a minute. They'll look up and they'll be like, what's going on? I don't know. They'll look for me. If I wasn't there, maybe they're like jumping in to say, hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing? They're trying to contact me, trying to make this connection. So this requires open acceptance. But where I found myself recently is like, I'm just so fucking overwhelmed. I can't even answer my phone. I can't seem to respond to the messages that are happening. I can't keep up with anything. I feel absolutely floored. I wish I could do more. And it's really, really just seeming like this endless, like, horrible thing. Remember, if it's down, it will go up. You know? If it's down, the thing is, the physical, how is it? Mind, body, spirit. Mind, the physical, the spirit. Physical / body. We've heard this before. This is like the triad of our existence, you know? You can't deny the existence of these. Maybe, I know for a long time, spirit, I didn't know what that meant. So it's kind of hard to describe what that means. So for some of it, it's like, how do I explain? Back to the CBT triangle, probably, because it's like the thinking, doing, feeling, like the doing requires physical action, which is why the physical is necessary. The physical body, the material. It's like sometimes we get so obsessed with certain ones that we're neglecting the others, and that's not a healthy balance either. You know, there are people out here functioning heavily in one, which is crazy. But it's like they're probably like sitting at an office doing really complex mathematical work. Maybe they are so... Okay, something about this and the feeding of the energy. Like the sun gives the plants energy, right? And it helps them to grow. If I was here already, like on the upward motion, or maybe perhaps it could help to lift from below the downward areas too. Because the rise in energy isn't coming from food. It's not physical. Because I actually tend to have a really horrible habit of skipping too much food and not like tending to the physical. You think that's always depression in the lows when you're like literally out of energy, no physical exists. Like your physical capacity is reduced so greatly and your mind is challenged over the top, and then everything's affected. It's like just a misregulated, there's no balance. It really messes things up when you're not able to stay in a cohesive area in that range. The euphoria and all this stuff also leads to neglecting the physical, because I think the sensational aspects of the physical dominate. Where I'm feeling euphoria, therefore I do not feel pain. And the body is telling us, hey, there's pain. Like the sensation, I just hurt myself. I just like for example, I had this kidney infection. I had pain all in this region of my lower abdominal, my back, my organs, everything. My muscles were tensing around these areas. I had so much inflammation and I was on all these antibiotics. Holy fuck, I've been so sick repeatedly. That was not that long ago. Okay? And then I'm like falling into depression because I'm feeling like garbage, and then the consequences are affecting that reciprocal, like the inner outer. It's what it causes is that all the chores and all the to-do stuff gets pushed off and piles up on the day-to-day. That mountain gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The energy required, the capacity for something that huge is like, it just feels impossible. Therefore, it feeds the hopelessness. Therefore, it makes me feel even more worthless. So this is how the cycle feeds itself. Eventually, depression can lead to some of the lowest places I've ever fucking been, where I've given up on every single thing. Except I haven't fully. I find myself in the darkest reaches of my mind in these places. I'm deep, 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 deep down. In labyrinths, in caves, in some place. It's like the opposite of the kite. There's a cave down here, way down in the depths of the ocean. And there's a door down there, and it reveals a labyrinth, and deep in the labyrinth is where I'm at, wherever my awareness is, wherever my perception is dominated. Where's my capacity for, connection? If I'm here or here, it's not. Because people are here. The connection is here. World is here. There's a tree. This is life right here in the real world. These places, it's not that they're not real, but they are not accessible by anything outside of just us. That's our personal. So, however, the awareness is way out there in these weird places. It doesn't get put here then, because you can't. The capacity I don't know, unless there's a simultaneous existence, which I've heard this about dolphins, and there's different stuff. Maybe, whoa, maybe let's revisit that topic because this video is getting to be pretty long. Okay, note to self: dolphins, the split hemisphere, dual brain function, dichotomy of perception, something. So, fuck, I'm all over the place here. This is how it works. So I'm down in these reaches of these dark caves. The problem is, I feel so alone in this place, and I am. People are here, remember? The connection is still there somehow, because my physical body is here too. So, but the neglect and shit like that, there's no self-care, because we are responsible for the mech suit. If this is the mech suit, somebody said that, it made so much sense with me, because when your physical is you have to avidly tend to it. If you don't, I kept thinking, I'm like, oh, I am so in my spirit and mind, kind of not as in the physical. Spirit and mind, up. So the strange thing is, my physical body changes shape, and oh God. Yeah, oh my fuck. Okay, here's another little reminder. Ayurvedic, the Ayurvedic I don't even know how to spell it. The Pitta, Vata, Kapha. So what these are, it's been a while since I've reviewed this, but I just noticed the similar overlap here. Kapha, I'll start there, is very much what it is mucus. Let me see, Pitta. I want to say Pitta is the fire, and Vata is the air, but I hope I don't have those two mixed up. But Pitta, Vata, Kapha. This is the body, the fire, air, mucus. So when I'm very, very sick, I have a lot of mucus, literally. There's a way to balance, and there's a science in this. Mucus feels like the mind. People who have thick bodies and curvy round bodies, they have a lot of kapha. They're more sedentary. Their body reflects their active style of perception, because this is not just a physical thing, but it is everything. It's all. Where we separate these things out from each other, I mean, this takes this and groups it together, but then gives it different sorts of I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out. The Vata, I found that I am air dominant. I am this because my body style is long and lanky like me. I'm flighty. I am up here a lot, just out there. I have lightness to me, buoyancy, less effortless. This feeling of effortless is because I can just I feel like the world carries me. I don't even have to try. The Kapha feels anchored, feels strong and sturdy, thick and slower, This is too flighty. The fire is destructive, powerful. It has power, it's aggression, it's drive, it's the focus. It's note to self, just brush up on this because I'm drawing a little bit of a blank here. I was going to say how these relate back to these, where the kapha feels more dominant in the body. You're going to have that set more sedentary anchors, heavy leg. You're going to move slower because you are focused, you're able. But there's a downside, there's an up and down to all of them. It's not good or bad. It's just finding the flow. If it's way too air, you need more of this kapha. If I'm too much mucus, I need my fire. I need to heal. I need to eat spice. I need to amp my body up so that I can have the energy back, because it gets too pulled down in that direction. But if it's too far up, I need to find a way to also bring it down, because the crashing and burning thing, often I realize, is because suddenly I'm well, when did I last eat? When did I last sleep? Am I drinking water? No, and no. Oh no, and what was I doing? Running around, dancing, building things, and creating, and going here and going there, using countless amounts of energy. Literally, the physical body needs it to function. The mech suit doesn't last without repairs. So when the more damage, does this mean that I need like a longer period down here to heal, to mend? I mean, it sucks because it's summertime. And I've never lived my life that way. But I need more than anything to heal right now, because the path I'm on is leading me down. Where's the up? Where's the up part? This is kind of nerve-wracking right now, especially because my children are sick, especially because my house is overwhelmingly crowded and messy. There's germs everywhere in this house. It's perpetuating this sickness. My kids are fighting me. I'm crabby because I feel like shit. I'm trying so hard to get their help, and they, for one, their capacity for helping is different than mine. They can only do so much. But the more that they battle me on helping, the more capacity goes to that instead of getting the action done. And we're perpetuating a very, very, it's increasingly worse right now. So to get out of this pattern, we need to change the form of operation, change the shape we're taking, do something. We have to do something, because this cycle is not a sustainable cycle. Yes, okay, this shit is great, but I don't know how it works in a way that can actually be safe and healthy, because it feels erratic, it feels out of control. And I would much rather be this stable tree than this flimsy shit out there in the world, like whipping in the wind. I need that solidity. I just don't know how to find it or create it or whatever. I'm working on that, and I hope that it will come, and I do have faith that things get better. Part of the thing that I think about is like, the ebbs and flows, those waves are always inevitable. And the further down, yes, this really, 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 really sucks. But this range, if I could express like the expansion of what that means, it allows for some of the most profound and beautiful experiences in this life that I've ever had the fucking honor of experiencing. I know it's possible. Sometimes I consider like the transcendent like mind, where it's like, where's my anchor? Well, if this was me, and we talk about our 7 chakras and stuff, but there are chakras that expand so far beyond ourselves. There's over 100 that have been easily identified, but like even more, some say, and I can't even fathom that. It's a connection. You cannot disconnect from the chakra, like to be able to put your energy focus. If I can catch it, usually my core, usually I'm right core, or like sometimes I bring it to the crown. Sometimes I'm more like choked up in my throat. My heart center is the best one. I love to feel that. It's okay. Like all of these, like, I don't know, where am I? Third eye. I don't know, whatever. Bring it down. That root meditation, where if I were honestly in a sitting pose, I would be more likely to want that. Oh, phallic symbols. Let's just go with it. I'm changing it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm here meditating somehow. I might be active, because honestly, meditation, people just sit. I can't sit. I just can't sit down in meditation. I need active meditation. That's why dance is has become one of my favorite outlets, one of my favorite ways of connecting, of finding this connection, of connecting with the self. And I'm here and I'm in my core and I'm like bringing it down, and I'm like, then if I can bring my anchor low, if I were like deeply anchored, the more that I can like sway above, catching into this energy of the universe when music is happening, and when there's rhythms, and when things are, like creating like an intensity in those spaces, like drum circles or any kind of opportunities to be dancing. It just amplifies everything. It amplifies this energy that's within you. It's going to amplify the energy around you. other people can come join in and do the same, and it can get to be something so incredibly beautiful, and it feeds that spirit. It really rejoins everything and just creates such a beautiful, like, healing goodness. Like, if we think about the earth capacity, I feel like that is one way we contribute to the greater whole of this world, just by doing something like that. And it's beautiful. But then when my back is injured and my body is sick and all of these things are going wrong, I can't dance. I am in pain, and it sucks. So there has to be another way, you know. I was in dance, or if somehow I wound up in this lotus pose or whatever, I'm meditating. So in my mind, I just visualize where's my energy sitting. Usually I feel it right into the root. But that's a good, because this root, this grounds us down. This is like heavy. I've had a lot of anxiety in my life, you know, so this is actually a great way to find maybe a stronger force to counter it, or just tame it so it's not consuming you so horribly. You know, that capacity, this world around you needs you. You can't be gone. Your kids are waiting for you. Your friends are wondering about you. The world's wondering, what's the next art that's coming? What's the next awesome thing that we'll see? I've got a lot of really beautiful feedback from people commenting on how that has impacted them. And so it's like this world, what we do, what we contribute, that's important stuff to help us to remember we are important. Don't let this shit get in you. Don't let it take over you, because you'll forget. You'll lose so touch that you're down here stewing in the darkest fucking shit, and you're forgetting. Okay, don't forget this, because this matters. People, there's love, there's so much goodness. And if you put yourself in this container, you're not growing. You can't, because you don't have access to the natural resources around you. You get closed. And then, you know, if the sun is bringing in this energy even, or the music or whatever, it's like, if you don't have access to those things, it makes sense that we're just down here, you know? If I'm here in this lotus and the anxiety is like getting me, and I'm feeling like erratic, or like there's too, it gets to this like jittery, haywire, like nasty, like like not a good feeling. You're in the above, but you're starting to crash. It's probably the moment you realize you don't actually have energy. The body will force you to stop. The body cannot physically keep moving if it does not have the ability to do so. It will stop you in your tracks. And that's when you fall from this beautiful, oh my God, wonderful, amazing, magical, like you'd never imagined such blissful feelings or understanding. Every single thing you see the world in these places matches. You can highlight all this beautiful shit everywhere and in everyone. And it is true. It is not a lie. It is just a change in your perception to have that capacity for where you're in tune. Yes, all this shit is true too. It simultaneously just is. Where are we looking? How are we able to direct ourselves? That's the important part. If you neglect this, boom, you have no choice now. You have surpassed the limit. You are officially done. It is closing time. We're kicking you out. You're done. Go home and sit in your shit for however long it takes to find enough energy to be back. You know, and it's like, is it really worth? I don't know if I have like a grip on deciding how high this goes. See, this is what I'm trying to figure out. Yes, I have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder since I was young. I was a teenager. I had so many incredibly horrific like situations growing up, and was repeatedly hospitalized, and like, just like, I hate it because I feel like that created this fucking shit in my head about what I thought I could do in this life. And I'm only realizing now that I put way too much value on the kind of things that I was told, being able to understand how those expectations shape us, you know, it has changed things. But then there's a lot of resentment that comes up when I realize how much of my life I've lived this way. But it's not too late, you know? It really isn't. So, holy fuck, you know, let's not give up and wallow down into feeling like this is all there ever is. Remember all of it, okay? And filling up this capacity, sometimes if this shit is in that physical place and that's where it needs your attention, then do it. Don't just wish you were in this place and just continue to fall and fall because you're failing to maintain this fucking mech suit. That's what is needed. Tend to it. Because in the end, it will help. And things will balance. And the waves will settle. And you'll get back to this place. And you'll be in this place. You'll be oriented. You'll be fine. You'll remember the love. You'll feel connected. You won't question your perception. You'll feel a sense of contribution and value in this life. You'll be able to appreciate everything, the trees, the above, the below. You'll see the beauty. You know, it is not possible to ever stay put forever in one place. That flow continues. So let's accept wherever we are on this scale right now, because it's not helpful just to continue to just wish for something else. We need to be real here. Okay? And it's not your fault that you're like trying. You are obviously trying to figure this shit out. Okay? Yes, we are creators of our lives, and life is a creator of us. So like, not everything can be controlled, but that's why the flexibility is good. And the more open we can be is good. So let's break free from the containers we've placed for ourselves. Understand there's a huge abundance of resources out there. Don't be afraid. Okay, we need to tap into that and help to use that to carry us, but in a way that's not going to hurt us. And I think that things will get better then. One thing at a time, not everything at once. And fucking don't forget that shit, okay? I'm like mad at myself because for some reason it just feels so impossible sometimes. But it's not. That's me in here. Fuck that shit. I'm done with that. Okay, universe, this is my plea and bargain or whatever. I am trying really hard and I don't want to give up on this, and I don't want to die, dude. My kids, I'm like, but I also don't want to move from a fucking place of fear, because the fear, I don't want fear to be my main motivator. When the anxiety makes me panic and I'm like, my capacity is just draining out. It's like somebody put a hole in my bucket, but I was the one who put that shit there probably. Or my bucket just was defective to begin with, but I could like patch it up with some random materials. You know, there's resources all around. We're creative and we're able to kind of tilt our heads sideways and understand a hammer's not just for pounding nails. You know, some people may be rigid in their way of thinking and think that, oh, that's what the only thing, and they're going to go buy one of everything, you know, but when they're out there backpacking and they can only carry so much weight, they're going to realize a hammer is a shovel, you know, a hammer is a pickaxe. A hammer can be so many things. It can be a wedge, it can be a lever, it can be a weapon. It could, you know, do such fucking amazing things. It could be a grappling hook. It can help you climb that tree, and it can tear down that rope, and it can do everything. It could be your zip line. It could be, you know, your stronghold for your tent. It could be the anchor for your boat. It can be fucking anything. Tilt your head sideways. You are not limited. The world is here for you. So don't ricochet that shit away, because this connection needs to be open. Get that heart open. This, yes, it exists, but so does this. So you know what? Take however much time you need to remember that, because you're here. And you're not going anywhere, okay? And this shit's not going anywhere either. So stop, patch the holes, Focus on that capacity, because obviously you're making investments with every single moment of your life. Let's make choices to invest in things that will then help us instead of hurt us more. Okay? And I think that's the big takeaway here. I love you. Please, please take care of yourself. Okay? Whew. All right. Bye-bye.